Okay, now I have to go into the lecture, and today's lecture is on Bourdieu, Bourdieu's sociology, Bourdieu's theory of society, Bourdieu's theory of social stratification, classes in society, his theory of reproduction and change, reproduction and change, and his theory of taste, art, and science, sociology of science. He contributed in many fields. Of course, in 1 hour, we cannot cover all of them, but I assign to you, I mean, you can comprehend Bourdieu now 2 essential readings. One is Eliot and Turner's profiles in contemporary sociology. But there is also Leider's chapter on Bourdieu, but it is not very good. Turner's, Leider's. So here I put Eliot and Turner's chapter in Eliot and Turner, and a book in English version. There is an English version as well as a Turkish version, where Bourdieu answers to the questions that Wacquant, Loic Wacquant, asks questions, and Bourdieu answers. This is actually the second part of this book, an invitation to reflexive sociology. The first part actually is a summary by Wacquant, summary of sociological theory of Bourdieu by Loic Wacquant. And the third part of this book, an invitation to reflexive sociology, is about Bourdieu's, a seminar of Bourdieu's on his methodology, how to do research, how to formulate research problems, and how to go about it in various phases of research. The last part, the end part. I usually ask my students to read the second part, the questions and answers, and the third part, how to do research, because in one semester, at the end of this year, you will be graduating and you will be hopefully working in a place where you will carry out research in the field. And Bourdieu is a theorist, a sociologist, who combines research in the field, in the society, in the practices of people in everyday life, in their everyday life, how to capture, to understand the logic, the social logic, logic of society. But in order to understand the social logic, one has to understand theoretical logic, logic of the theory, logic of the theory. So actually, he combines, or he doesn't separate, let me put it that way, he doesn't separate theory and research. He he combines them in such a way that when doing the one, you will be doing the other in an interrelated way with each other. And he has this famous slogan of for sociology. I repeat it during all my courses. Actually, he says in this relationship between theory and research, he says that research without theory, research without theory is blind. No, it is just facts, statistics, or if it is qualitative research, just quotations from the interviews, or frequency distributions if it is a quantitative research. Only with theory one can read these statistics, that is, interrelate the variables with each other and try to find out how that relationship that we are looking, the relationship between an independent variable and a dependent variable, how that varies in different groups according to class, according to age, according to gender, etc., etc. But your theory will help you in analyzing qualitative and quantitative data, he says. And then on the other hand, he says that theory without research is empty, bosh. That is, you cannot, a sociologist cannot just sit and do theory. A sociologist doing only theory is unacceptable to Bourdieu. That kind of a theory is okay for a philosophy, maybe. Philosophers can play with the ideas, develop systems of thought, yes. But for philosophy or for theory to be science, it should be implemented in the field. It should be tested. It should be tested with research, with data. It should be through the hypotheses that drawn from the theory and collecting data to falsify each hypothesis. You are testing the theory. If you fail to falsify, then your data is supporting your hypothesis and thereby your theory. Anyway, this is where actually I start to present Bourdieu, his double emphasis on both research and theory. Okay, now in this, I actually have a summary here in Blackboard of that book that I mentioned to you, this Bourdieu and Bacquant Invitation to Reflexive Sociology, where he starts with comparing psychoanalysis and socio-analysis. And sociology, he said, is a socio-analysis, like psychoanalysis is analyzing a person, a normal person, or a patient with neurosis or psychosis or whatever, to find out, where, for example, for psychosis or for neurosis, how one can go from symptoms to the causes, and how what kind of therapy should be conducted to help the client, psychoanalysis. Now, similarly, he says, socio-analysis is studying groups, classes, societies, to find out the mechanisms of change and reproduction, transformation, or how hierarchies are formed. What are the dynamics of hierarchization? What is the role of education, for example, in reproduction of a society, or changing a society from one state to another state? Socioanalysis at this social level, as well as socioanalysis, can be applied to the agents as well, to the subjects, biographies. But Bourdieu warns that without a socioanalysis, a biography, an autobiography usually, leads us to fallacy, because autobiographies and biographies are structured. The life, the past of the life is structured dersteyim Sezgin. Teşekkür ederim. Sorry, a friend of mine called, just be interrupted. I was talking about socio-analysis, the relationship between socio-analysis and biographical studies. Now, in order to turn a biographical study into a social biography, he says we should be aware of the distortions, the distortion of looking from the present to the past, because the present self and the selves in the past is a series of selves in the past. Each self was structured in the situation that the person was in, but the person is not anymore in those situations, in those structural positions, in those fields. For example, a person normally is in the family field early on, and then in school, the elementary school, high school, each of these are each of fields, and the self in each of these fields, or now actually here, Bourdieu uses the concept of, instead of the concept of self, he uses habitus. Habitus. How habitus formed early in the family field. So the origin of each age, each actor in society is important, because the basis for the habitus is formed there. It is the incubator of inculcation of what Bourdieu calls external objective structures into internal subjective structures. So I actually started using two of his basic concepts, the concept of field and the concept of habitus. Now, again, let me go over again. Now here, habitus is a second nature to the individual. Sociologists are not dealing with naked individuals. No, sociologists are dealing with agents who are acting in different fields throughout their life, acting in different fields, and their action is determined, okay, let me use this word, determined, with a combination of dynamics of each field and dynamics of the habitus that the agent brings from his family, her family, educational background, and where habitus is being adjusted in accordance with the workings of the field. So field and habitus are interrelated in such a way that habitus creates tendencies, dispositions in the agents. Agent, here you see, agent is one of the essential concepts. Agent is the actor. In Turkish, it is fail, the one who acts, who makes things, or who does not act, who decides not to act, who speaks, or who does not, and the agent, that is the agent, the basic term. But the agents are studied in relationship to their habitus, because agent is not bare agent, but with a habitus. Habitus, that is tendencies, dispositions of emotions, skills, cognitive skills, practical skills. Habitus is, Bourdieu says, it is a certain way of locating each individual, each person, each agent vis-a-vis other agents and vis-a-vis the field. There, in the field, agents are acting not as, again, bare agents or habituses, but in positions. Now, each of them acquire a position in the field, a position in the field. Like in the family field, what are the positions? Position of being father, being mother, being sisters, being brothers, and the person himself, herself. When you go to the school, what are the positions? Now, positions are the teacher, the peers, the friends in class, girlfriends or boyfriends when you come to lycée or to university, work, those industrial students and those lazy students, different. In each field, each person, each habitus is located in the field. Field is locational and relational. These positions are constructed relationally. The field, this is, and according to Bourdieu, the field is objective. Now, although, of course, theoretically, a sociologist reconstructs it, but it is there, out there, constructed by not sociologists, but by the agents, the actors, the habituses that come together in modern societies in differentiated fields of the society, in economic field, in scientific field, in artistic field, in social field, in cultural field. These are in a differentiated society. There are hundreds of fields, although they can be categorized under fewer categories, like I said, social fields, cultural fields, scientific field, artistic field, symbolic field, or non-symbolic, non-discursive, discursive fields, non-discursive. Okay, now we will talk about this discursive, non-discursive when we come to Bourdieu. Now, let's not talk about discursive, non-discursive here. But for comparison, when we come to Bourdieu, we will do that comparison. So again, let me go back to the field. Now, field, as I said, is relational. Actually, real is relational for Bourdieu. He has a relational approach versus a substantive approach. Now, in epistemology, these two concepts, these two approaches are contrasted, are separated. Substantial concepts refers to the substance of a reality, of a field, of a stone, of an orange, a substance. But when you think of relational, you think of the orange in relation to citrus fruits in general, the lemons or other citrus family, and then citrus family against the apples, another family, and then fruits against the vegetable, relational. Substantive versus relational. In substantive, you go into the substance. But Bourdieu says science, and especially social sciences, and especially sociology, deals with relations, the positions, hierarchies, relationships. They are all created relationally. So he has this famous comparison between what Hegel says and then what how he transforms it into what he says. Now, Hegel says Hegel is an idealist. Before Marx, in Germany, he constructed an idealistic philosophical system, which is transformed by a materialist approach by Marx. Okay, now let's forget about Marx now. Now, Hegel and Bourdieu. Okay, now Hegel says, as an idealist philosopher, real is rational. So he reduces real to the rational. For Hegel, everything is included in the rational. If it is not rational, it is not real, kind of. But for Bourdieu, real is relational, not rational, because real might be rational, irrational, non-rational, conscious, unconscious, many other things, but these are all related to each other, relational. He conceives them relationally. So the field, when he conceives field relationally, field as a network of objective relations between positions, a network of objective positions, and our network here, the field. But this field, there are positions, so there can be, of course, a horizontal field. Everybody might be equally positioned into their, but mostly fields are hierarchical. There are those who have a vested interest in the field. So those are hegemonic or dominant. No, would you use dominant positions versus subordinate positions. Dominant positions, subordinate positions. And there is a continuous struggle to fight about the rules of the game of each field between these two groups and the fractions of these groups, of course. The dominant and subordinate groups struggle with each other about the field. What are the inputs of the field, outputs of the, for example, in an artistic field. Let's think of the field of novels, roman, novels. Now, the novelists are positioned in that field, the field of literature, and within literature, novels. So those who favor more materialistic concerns, how much a book gains, versus those who are more concerned about the artistic value of each novel. There is a fight there. So more popular, the novels will be oriented popularly, or they will be oriented towards an excellence, a kind of artistic. Okay, these are, of course, all relative to the field. They are not absolute, so we went into one concept, the field, the concept of field. Actually, we started with the concept of habitus. Now, again, let me go back. Now, we said that the field is out there, objective. The categorizations and groups and division of labor, professions, economic firms and workers and factories, the fields, many fields out there, objective, independent of individuals. Of course, they are not independent of society. Each society, they are dependent. Now, those objective structures are dependent on the societies and their action, of course, but independent of the consciousness of each of them. It is not under their control. Those fields are not controlled by a group or a person. There's a struggle for control. So, of course, there is a struggle for control, and which way the objective world is going to be structured, and which way is the economic system going to be structured, which way income distribution is going to be struck. There's a struggle. What will be the level of minimum wage? So the workers and employers are struggling with each other about the minimum wage, because as minimum wage goes up, the profits goes down. But as minimum wage goes down, the family of the worker becomes poorer. So the workers do not want to be poor, so they try to raise the minimum wage, whereas employers and the state intervenes between the two. Anyway, so the field is objective out there, although it is negotiated between different classes, different groups, state, etc. So it is not objective as a stone. It is not as objective as stone, but it is a socially objective. Fields are socially objective structures, relationships, networks. Whereas habitus is subjectivized society, subjectivized fields. So there's an objective society out there and its fields, differentiated society, and each baby born to a family, depending on the location and the position of the family in that society, in the objective structure of that society, the baby, as he grows, acquires, internalizes, is socialized in such a way that these objective structures are subjectivized, internalized. So habitus and field are two sides of a coin. They are intimately related to each other. So in a sense, we can say that fields are objectified relationships between habitus, objectified fields, whereas habituses are subjectified forms of these objectified fields. Okay, now I think I hope, you understand this relationship and each of them. Now, and for example, I have to say that, for example, in order, how are we going to determine the boundaries of a field? The boundaries. So we have to, Bourdieu says, position each field first in accordance with the field of power, with the field of power, power, state, or non-state power, class power. But in modern societies, state, power is usually embodied in the organizations of the state. Okay, so now where does how each field is located in relationship to the economic field. So in relationship to the political field, to the economic field. Now, for example, when you think of, or when Bourdieu thinks of artistic fields, and he has at least 3 books on sociology of art, about painters or about novel writers or whatever, the field of art. Now, he says that, for example, the field of art, in order to be to produce authentic art, each of them should be art, not should be. No, he observes that they are differentiated in such a way that if and when they become a field, when they become relatively autonomous, when they become relatively autonomous from the economic field and from the political field, for example, the artistic field, if we are talking about. Now, actually, fields are such that, for example, when we talk about economic field, what is the aim of each agent in the economic field? To maximize his gains for the employers, to maximize profits and investment, etc. For the workers to maximize their earnings. They are material. They have material interest, economic interest. Whereas in the artistic fields, this is reversed. In art, your interest is non-materialistic. You are not working. No, in the economic field, you are working for money. But in artistic field, you are working to create art. Now, in a sense, Bourdieu is saying that the artistic fields emerge and become autonomous as they gain their autonomy, relative autonomy, from the economic field, from the business field, and from the political field. And only artists decide. Artists in struggle with each other. What are the rules of the game in each artistic field? What is beautiful and what is ugly is decided by them and by them alone. Of course, by the consumers as well. Consumers of those productions of each artistic field. But also, if there is an artistic field independent of economic field, the artistic field should have also an autonomy from the demands of the consumers of the products of each artistic field. I don't know, whether it is clear, but each fields are relationally located. So relational approach instead of substantivist approach. Relational located, and their boundaries are different. Where the boundary of economic field ends and where the boundary of an artistic field starts. Now, of course, for example, in painting, the paintings are being sold. They have an economic value as well. They are, but the value of a painting or a musical piece, cassette or records in old times, but now they are all electronic. Anyway, they are determined within each field, in the painting field, in the musical field, in the literature field, in each field, the value of product is assessed not in accordance its economic value, but in accordance with the values of beauty, aesthetic values of each field. Now, as these fields emerge and differentiate, and that if and when they are able to formulate their own rules of the game. Now he calls this doxa. Actually, doxa are the rules of the field, rules that are inherited historically as well as reconstructed by the agents in each field on the basis of the habituses of the agents. Doxa is the norms and the values, the everyday expressions, everyday understanding, everyday skills, doxa. Now, when we come to science and ideology and art, to distinguish those, these doxa will come up there too. Doxa, okay, if we use a phenomenological concept, it is the common sense, actually. Doxa is the common sense in each field, Now, Bourdieu compares fields with each other and tries to establish homologies between fields. Now, for example, in an artistic field, say in a novel, in the field of, let's say, police novels, polisiye romanlar, that's a field, a sub-field of literature. There are those writers, novel writers, and there is a hierarchy. Those who are well established and dominant in the field and publishing a book in every year or every 2 years, and and then there are new entrances. And there's a struggle between them. New entrances are trying to change the field in such a way. Now, this has an analogy, for example, with the economic field. In the economic field, instead of established novel writers, now there are established business firms, the holdings, etc. There's a hierarchy of all these business firms. Now, within the economic field, there are subfields, of course, fields and subfields. Hundreds of fields, subfields. Okay. Now, now the field, so far, I conceptualized, or I tried to talk about the field in terms of habitus and field and interrelations between fields. But now there is a basic concept that now I have to come, the concept of capital. Now, each field has its own distinctive capital. Now, let me go back to economic field and artistic field again. Now, the capital of the economic field is economic capital, money. The capital of artistic field is cultural capital, a variant of cultural capital. Artistic capital that is reshaped for that subfield of, for example, police novel writing, police novels. Now, what is the capital there? It is a symbolic capital, making artistic production, creating the ways of artistic production and evaluation and re-evaluation of each product and the relationship according to not economic capital, but according to cultural capital, a variant of it according to artistic capital. So actually, the boundaries of fields are studied best by looking at the distribution of capital in each field. Okay, now again we were comparing economic field and artistic field. Now in artistic field, production of artistic material or products is not for money, but for artistic satisfaction, for aesthetic satisfaction, to increase the feelings of beauty in those who read it. Whereas in the other, but then we said, but the paintings has economic value as well. So the capital of the artistic field and the capital of the economic field come together in a boundary. So now, when the more economic principles enter, the less artistic it becomes. So the field ends here, and economic field starts taking over, or the reverse. How each of the field and subfields are differentiated from each other. Now, how do you determine the boundaries of each field? According to the distribution of capital in each field. So here, Bourdieu has varieties of capital, types of capital. Now, the types of capital, two of which I already mentioned, economic capital and cultural capital. Now, a third basic capital is social capital. Now, I think you might have understood, I don't know to what extent I made it clear. I will continue making it clear, but still, I hope it is clear. The economic and cultural capitals, are clearer actually. Now, social capital is economic capital. It is a network of friends, relatives, or those who are from the same province, hemşehri in Turkish. Now, sometimes a person who doesn't have economic capital, who doesn't have cultural capital, a variant of cultural capital is educational capital, right? But might have social capital. Now, if the person is located in a network, his position there in that network or in that social field, if it can mobilize many people for a cause, now that person might have, or that person might be richer in terms of social capital than a rich businessman, or than a famous artist, or than a famous scientist, social capital. It is so so you can accumulate money, economic capital in your life, to have a better life, or you might accumulate cultural capital again to have a better life and more meaningful life, education and reading books and going theaters, films, etc., etc., continuing to accumulate. Or you can accumulate people, friends, networks. So actually, when you are born into a family, already you are in a network. Not only in that the people in that nuclear family. That nuclear family is is a node actually in a now larger network of other families, the parental families, or the families of the children, generational differences, or depending on the social relationships, it might be, for example, a more tribal relationship. And then to what extent each nuclear family is located within the tribal hierarchy, for example, or in the village hierarchy, or in the neighborhood, social capital. Now, three basic capitals: economic capital, cultural capital, social capital. And then he adds to this symbolic capital. Now, symbolic capital, how is the symbolic capital defined? Again, it is related to each of them. But if a person has some values, some recognition, okay, recognition as as a knowledgeable person, or something who can look for leadership, or who a person for whom you look for advice. Now, that person might have, and it's a symbolic capital. You go to the person because that person has an honorable position, or that person has some credit of being true every time, not lying at all, being telling everything without distorting it, and that person might have gained a position in society, a symbolic capital. Now, this symbolic capital might be due to economic capital, or cultural, educational capital, or social capital. But if you forget about those capitals and only symbolically, different from those three, symbolic capital, and that is one approach to symbolic capital, honor or prestige or influence one has in society, in addition to those. But plus a second meaning of symbolic, actually cultural capital is symbolic too, or economic capital is symbolic too, because money is a symbol after all. symbolic is the meaningful, infusing meaningfulness into each of these capitals, or into each of fields, actually, symbolic capital. Now, for Bourdieu, symbolic capital and symbolic domination is important, and actually he has this physical violence versus symbolic violence. Now, symbolic violence, his concept of symbolic violence is cooperation between two classes or two people in terms of meaningfulness of that relationship, but actually that relationship is a relationship of domination subordination, or is an exploitation relationship. But if the exploited or subordinated agrees with the dominant, with the exploiter, accepts it as legitimate, but still there is domination, exploitation. So he calls this violence, symbolic violence. Now, different from physical violence. In the case of physical violence, the dominant person uses physical means to subordinate the subordinated person. Now, actually, it is the symbolic capital and then symbolic violence. It has wide application in Bourdieusian sociology. Maybe you are already familiar. You might have seen in other classes. For example, he has a study about his village. As you know, now let me go back to Bourdieu's development. Now, he graduated from philosophy department of the university in France. And then he was conscripted into army and went to Algeria. And that time, Algeria is a colony of France, but there is a war of independence, Algerian Liberation Front there. So he finishes his army service and stays there in such a way that he is converted from philosophy to anthropology, because with the friends, the Algerian friends that he had there, he started studying a kabile, a tribe, and hence a pre-capitalistic social organization, a pre-capitalistic economy, a pre-capitalistic society where position of women and men are different, so it really, he formulated his theory of practical reason, which practical reason on the basis of his study in Algeria of how, although of course at the time he studied these Algerian Berberi tribes in Algeria, they were also under the influence of economic capital, a capitalistic economy, but not completely. So he was able to observe and to study before capitalistic incorporation of those tribes. Okay, now, then at one point he studied his own village in south eastern part of France, his own village. He is a son of a post office worker. He goes back to his village periodically, and he has articles about the social structure of this village. But in one of these articles, or in one of these visits, he he's invited by his peers, friends in the village. They went to school together, to a meeting, a balo of unmarried people. In Turkish, bekarlar balosu, bekarlar balosu. Now, he observed, this participation, and observing it, he objectified, actually, and he calls participant objectification. He objectified a symbolic violence that is taking place in his village in relationship between brothers, sisters, parents. Now, how did he observe this? He observed that in this meeting, in this party of the bachelors party, there were old men, his friend, most of his friends, he went there when he was older, or older, than himself. There were the number of men, old men, was so many more than the younger man and woman. Now, he thought, what is, there is some imbalance here. Why there are not more women? Why there are not more young people? Because mostly people are bachelor and they are young. But here, these men are bachelor and old still, and they get older and older, and they are bachelor. Now, he found out that there is some social, a symbolic evaluation, a symbolic calculation going on here. Now, the symbolic evaluation is that brothers and parents are valuing city life more than the village life. In Turkey too, köy hayatı, şehir hayatı. So especially the oldest brother, usually the oldest brother stays in the home of the parents. Now, oldest brother tries to marry his sisters to those who are in the city, so that she will have a better life. So that she have it. Now, each man does this to their sisters. So what happens then? This behavior, this symbolic evaluation, or giving value to their sisters so that they will have a better life. This is brother, sister, or parent, children relationship. If all brothers, older brothers do this, their younger sisters and brothers, then what happens is that there are no girls left in the village to marry. Why? Because as he married his sisters to the city, his friends also married their sisters to the city. So each of them find no bachelor woman to marry. So actually, they became old bachelors, unmarried bachelors, so that they can form a family, so that they cannot reproduce themselves, so that they will not have children. So there is no feature of that brother, that man. There will be no children representing him in the next generation. So actually, this is doing a violence to himself. Actually, he is depriving himself from future progeny, future children, by doing something symbolically for his sisters. So actually, he's not doing it to deprive himself of children. He is just helping his sisters. But actually, the same thing being done all other men in the village. So actually, they are applying violence to themselves. They are depriving themselves, not physically, but symbolically. So symbolic violence is the violence you participate in some this functionality, this positionality, whatever, to yourself, but without being conscious of it. You are not doing consciously. No, I shouldn't marry. No, they want to marry. They want to have children, but somehow, by doing something else, they deprive themselves of it, and then they become childless, familyless. They are not able to reproduce. So the title of the article is Reproduction Forbidden. Forbidden. Now, somehow they forbid their own reproduction, and physical and social reproduction. Anyway, this is symbolic capital. Now, this was the fourth capital, symbolic capital. Now, the fifth capital is, according to Bourdieu, and in his later life, he gave more significance to it, is the state capital. Now, state capital or political capital. Now, we talked about political field, but we didn't talk about political capital. Now, what is state capital? Now, in modern societies, not tribal societies, but agrarian or especially urban industrial societies, central state, the powers of the central state and the bureaucracies and the extension of it to all facets of life, social life. State is in such a position that it can intervene into other capitals. Now, through state capital or through state, you can intervene into the economic field in such a way that not this section of society, but that section of society start benefiting from economic resources. And economic resources are reallocated. Now, states reallocate it, or state reallocates cultural capital, changing schools, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and universities in such a way that while it was that capital was being acquired one sector of society, now it's opened up to another sector, changing the standards of the education, of the schools, of the personnel, of the administrators of these institutions, of the schools. So state capital, he says, is a meta capital. Meta, like metaphysics, beyond physics, and metaphysics, meta capital, beyond other capitals, intervening, having the capacity to intervene into other capitals. Now, for example, in the liberal period of capitalism, there is, you might have heard of laissez-faire. State does not intervene into the market, into the economic field. Let them pass, let them do. But after a certain point in history, states left that laissez-faire position and they started intervening in all fields. And presently in the world, depending on the degree of liberal policies, existing liberal policies, to what extent state capital can intervene, because as the state capital intervenes, the autonomy of each field is reduced, and autonomous production and dynamics is being distorted. Sometimes distorted in a more productive way, but mostly distorted in a less productive way, or in a pathological way. There is the possibility of distorting it in the pathological direction. Okay, now let me recapitulate. So far we have started discussing habitus, and then field, relationship between habitus and field, and relationship between field and capital. Now, they are hermeneutically involved, actually, especially capital and field. A capital is a capital in relationship to a field. Field is defined in terms of the amount of capital's distribution among the agents. Now, individual agents or collective agents. So field is defined with capital, but capital is defined with field. So they are hermeneutically relate to each other in giving meaning to. Similarly, there is a hermeneutic relationship between habitus and field. Field is the objective social structure, objective network of positions, whereas habitus is subjective, internalized. So Bourdieu says that reality exists in two forms, in two levels. One level is objective, out there, fields, differentiated fields and their relationships, boundaries, their capitals, etc., etc., etc. And economic field is studied by the economists. The political field is studied by the political sciences, the social field studied by sociologists, etc. Fields. There are fields, and they're now out there, and then habituses. Now, habituses are not psychological psyches that's studied by psychologists. Now, it can be studied. Now, social psychologists to some extent study habituses or use concept of habitus, but it's a sociological concept for Bourdieu, because habitus, the social reality, exists in two forms: one in a habitus form, one in the subjective form, the other in the objective form. So society actually is subjectivized to become habitus, or habituses are objectified to become society. So all the categories, differentiations exist at both levels, at the subjective. And actually, he doesn't use subjective and objective. Instead of that, he uses field and habitus, and they are also related to each other, while the relationship here, like field and capital, field and habitus, are also related to each other. But analytically, while doing research, Bourdieu were able to abstract these from the reality and conceptualize it. But he conceptualized them relationally, not substantively. So he's saying that, no, just don't automatically apply these concepts: field, capital, habitus, symbolic capital, symbolic violence, or don't use them as you do research, as you tune yourself down to the field, as you become a participant, as a sociological participant in the field, studying the field. But you should be participant in such a way that you should be objectifying the field, perceiving the objective structure of the field, as well as your subjective habitus and your objective position as a sociologist in that objective field, and other subjective habituses of the other participants. Now, now for Bourdieu, this way of, as I started with this, the relationship between theory and method. Now he says that in order to do to be able to participate in a field, you should know, you should be one of the, you should be as if you are one of the agents there. So you should leave your scholastic knowledge, your school book knowledge, your theoretical knowledge at school. Now, if you think that the field, the practices of the people in the field is like your professor, your students, your friends in the school, now he says this is scholastic fallacy. projecting the school reality into the social reality and trying to understand social reality as if it is school reality. No, that is a fallacy. A fallacy. No, you have to. You cannot. And he says, if you do that, you substitute the logic, the social logic in the field with the logic of the rational logic, and the logic of the field and the logic of the theory. You are at, or the logic of the school to the substitute. Now, if you do that substitution, you cannot be a successful researcher. So how you are able to do this? Reflexivity, okay? Invitation to a reflexive sociology. Invitation to a reflexive sociology. A reflexive sociologist is continually aware that he is trying to perceive an objective reality out there, which is made up of habituses and okay, the actors, agents, and positions they occupy, and network of those positions, the field. But he himself has a position, has a class position, has a gender position. So reflexivity is being aware of you making the research. So you are doing a sociological research, but if you are also doing a sociological research of your sociological research, then you become reflexive. Okay, and mainly what you are doing is a sociological research, but being conscious, reflexive of doing sociological research is thinking about or you are doing sociology of sociology. You are doing sociological research, but you are also doing reflexively sociology of this sociological research, sociology of sociology. He says this is very essential in order to avoid biases, in order to be, the more reflexive you are, the more objectively you can perceive and present the subject that you are researching. Sociology of sociology and reflexiveness. Okay, now I will talk about this, the logic of the school or logic of theory that you learn when you are going through your sociological education. Your teachers, the classical sociologists, contemporary sociologists, each of these theories have their own logics. These are logic of theories or logic of the school. Now, I said, or he says, if you think that social logic in the everyday practice of the people is same as the logic of the theory or logic of the school, then you are in a scholastic fallacy. Why? Because the logics in each are different. Actually, the practical logic of the social, when you are trying to find out the logic of the social, it is not the logic of the theory. It is actually, he calls that fuzzy logic. It is fuzzy logic. Now, in the Aristotelian logic or modern logic, that you study in your logic courses, is rationally constructed with terms, with concepts that are mutually exclusive. As they are abstracted, rationalized. Whereas in everyday life, everything is not rational. It is relational, but non-rational, irrational, emotional, affective. So there is so as a sociologist, using the theoretical logic, but without making it as if it exists there, you have to be able to appreciate, you have to able to appropriate, you have to able to decipher the fuzzy logic of the practical, the social practice, of the social practice. Okay, so during the education, in sociology education, at the bachelor level and at the MA level and PhD level, our purpose is to be, to train you in such a way that you become more and more reflexive. Okay, on the one hand, you learn all these theories and all these methodological techniques of doing research, but being aware that they are purely rational. And rational, this logic is purified, abstracted. The logic of the social fields are different from this, and this is a tool to analyze that. So while you are going to the reality, you have to be able to separate yourself from them and be a part of the field. And then when you come to analyze your data, then you have to separate yourself from the practical logic of the everyday life, social life, and now get involved with the theoretical logic. Now, he said that education, acquiring sociological capital, through bachelor, MA, and PhD degrees, that education, the students are trained to value objectivity, valuing reality as reality instead of your point of view, a reality from your. Of course, you start from your point of view, but if that education is successful, your own desires is being transformed in such a way that you desire actually objectivity and being scientific. So he uses this formula. Sometimes he uses Latin words. He says the education in school is transformation of libido dominandi into libido scinde. Now, in English, now this is in English, but let's use English words in the English sentence, transforming domination, desire for domination, desire for profit, desire for fame, or desire for being powerful over others. Usually people, these are the desires of the people as human beings. Now, if the education is successful, that desire of being dominant, of being powerful, of being full of richness, money, into desire for knowledge, desire for objectivity, objective knowledge, scientific knowledge. If this is being done successfully, then a scientific habitus is being inculcated in the person. So the person becomes now a scientific agent, a sociologist, psychologist, physicist, chemist, biologist, whatever. Each of those, each theories and methodologies of each of them is or the desire for that in each of them, desire for scientific knowledge. Now, knowledge is usually non-rational, non-scientific, everyday common sense knowledge, doxa. We call this doxa when we were talking about the field. Each field has its own knowledge specific to that field, but it is not scientific knowledge. No, it is working knowledge, common sense knowledge for each field to operate, to work. So you have to transform that doxa, that common sense, into scientific knowledge by acquiring a scientific habitus through training in that field's theory and methodology and applications of it. Being the more and more you apply, the better and better you become. So this is important contributions, and I think I tried to convey it to you. But as I said, when you graduate, read especially the third section of this invitation to reflexive sociology, where he has all these small chapters where he talks about, for example, thinking relationally, how one can construct a research object from everyday mundane subjects, mundane relationships, mundane social problems, and how you can develop relational thinking instead of substantive thinking. In substantive thinking, you attribute some essences to the agents or to the structures or to the whatever. In relational thinking, you have to find out what kind of relationships contributes to the emergence of such and such kind of substance or another relationship or product or a service or a good or whatever. And one should be able to delve into the particular to find out the general in the particular. In particular, and here comparative method, as I already mentioned, analogies and homology. Actually, he uses this word, a specific form of analogy. Homology is similarity in the structural hierarchy of each field. Now, they are not analogical, you know, they are not serving this the same thing in each field. You know, there are parts in such a way that they are homologous, but not same, not similar. Now, okay, now similar in their function, but not in their appearance. Not similar in their appearance, but similar in their function and in their position. In the mechanisms, they are similar, but dissimilar in their appearance. Okay, now what I am going to do now is go into a critique of Bourdieu. Here, I would like to share with you an article, and now if I can find it here, I think it's here. Now let me, now this is from Michael Bourdieu. He has this article where he tries to defend, on the one hand, Bourdieu, but also tries to show what are the deficiencies. Let me just share this article. Now, let me go here, and then from here, no, not this one. I think I did a wrong thing. This one here. Here. And then share application. And Bourdieu, okay, here, this one. Paylaş. Now let me see whether you have this. This is the article by Michael Bourdieu, making sense of the Bourdieu from demolition to recuperation and critique. Recuperation and critique. Now, he starts with this sentence. He says that how different theorists relate with each other, or in sociology, how sociologists in a country relate with each other. What do they do? What kind of relationship they establish with each other? Now, or he asked this question: how should we engage our intellectual opponents? So all sociologists are struggling in the sociological field to give a better objective scientific knowledge of the field. They are competing with each other to be more scientific and to be more objectively presenting the knowledge of society. Now, if you are in the field, how do you engage with other sociologists? Now, one, ignore them. Secondly, demolish them, destroy them, criticize them, and say that they are wrong. Or thirdly, absorb them, learn from them, and recuperation, learn from them, but giving credence to the criticisms or absences, so also presenting criticism. So this is what he does in this article. Actually, he goes first into a book or an article by let me just point it out, Dylan. Okay, here in front of me, I have the article by Dylan John Riley. Dylan John Riley. Now, he's a sociologist, also American sociologist like Bourdieu, and he has written an article demolishing Bourdieu. He criticized him in such a way. Let me just briefly, Dylan John Riley says that there was some flaws in the theory of class and in the theory of social change. And then he tried to show them, and he tried to show and how Bourdieu's sociology focused on consumption by ignoring production. This was, one of the basic criticisms. Or there were a recent article. Actually, this is 2023. Two sociologists, Josh Same and Michael McCarthy. Now they also advance three critiques to Bourdieu. They say that his conception of class vis-a-vis Marx, Marx has a means of production main criterion of class, whereas Bourdieu added cultural capital, symbolic capital, social capital. So this is problematic, they say, one. Secondly, he works about symbolic domination, subordination, but he doesn't focus on exploitation enough. He doesn't focus on exploitation. And then thirdly, he focuses on production, on consumption, taste, in distinction, especially in terms of position taking in the field. they say he emphasizes position taking over production, similar to John Riley's and Dylan Riley's criticism. Now, Bourdieu tries to meet these criticisms and accept some of them and reject some of the criticisms. I will not go into details, but I provided you here in Blackboard with the article of Bourdieu and summaries of the others who criticize him. Now, what Bourdieu does what I have did in most of the article. He elaborates Bourdieu's theory in all its aspects in different research, in different fields. Okay, now this year in this class, I am going to do something that I didn't do so far. Now I will send this away and I will summarize all what I've said, of course, summary, and not all of it, but a